Good morning, everyone. We're going to give it about 30 more seconds just to let a couple more people hop on. All right, it's just been about 30 seconds. So, thank you for joining us today. We have Adam presenting, and he is going to be talking about managing a highway maintenance fleet. Um, we do have chats disabled, and the polls will be done via Zoom. The best way to communicate with us is through the Q&A. And just as a reminder, this webinar is not worth any PDHs, but it is a really good webinar to be part of. I am going to let Adam introduce himself, and then we'll get started with our first polls.
Thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Adam Fitzpatrick. I am an instructor for the Heavy Equipment Operations Program at Alfred State College. Here we cover everything from highway maintenance to heavy highway construction, residential and commercial. Before this, I was actually in highway maintenance and in heavy construction. So all of our backgrounds are very, very in depth as far as certain things go. So we kind of go our different ways and fit in where we can. So, and like Jody said, today we're going to be talking about managing a highway maintenance fleet. Okay. Big thing with this is we want to be the most efficient, most cost effective, and productive fleet operation. We all know that you guys are limited on resources as far as money. You've got budgets, you've got all sorts of obstacles in your way. So this is just a way to make sure that you can do the best you can with what you actually have to work with. Okay, so some of the key objectives that we're going to be working with today, we're going to understand the fundamentals of effective fleet management. We're also going to learn how fleet size and equipment selection affect productivity and budget. Okay, so if you maybe have a little bit too much of one thing or not enough of another, this can change drastically as far as production and everything like that. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. And then we're also going to explore the maintenance practices, the inventory tracking that is out there, and this phase of industry and record keeping. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jody, and we have some introductory polls that she's going to cover.
All right, so it should be popping up right now. Give it a few more seconds. We have people from all over, town, county, city, village, state, couple from tribal, and some private. All right. And I'm going to bring up the next one. The next one is my job is, give me just a second. Of course, it's not launching. There we go. My job is. Looks like we have quite a few engineers, but it's kind of hitting all over. Highway superintendents, administration, field crew, a couple board members, and none of the above. If you want, you can put the none of the above in the Q&A. I'm gonna end. And the last one is years in current position. So it looks like less than a year, less than a month we have. 5 to 10, 11 to 20 years, and 1 to 2. So we're all over. All right. All right, Adam, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and then I'll be chiming in just a few minutes for another poll.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Jody.
Yes.
Okay, so let's discuss some fleet management matters. And I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty. I apologize. Our campus is out of internet, so I'm trying to go off of a hotspot. So if I have issues, I apologize for that. Which I am having issues, of course. Oh, here we go. I think now we've got it. So, first thing we want to go over is why fleet management matters. Okay. We have a couple of bullet points on this operational efficiency, cost control, workforce productivity, public accountability, safety and compliance, and then data driven decisions. So let's start out with operational efficiency. Okay. So when we have operational efficiency, this is going to ensure that the right equipment is available when needed. Okay. So when you have a job, we're going to actually try to plan ahead. We're going to make sure that we have that equipment there. So that way, when the job does come around and, oh, geez, well, we don't have that piece. Now we've got to actually postpone it. We've got to push it back, right? We don't want that. That's going to actually make it to where it's going to cost more, right? Which leads us into our cost control. This will actually help us reduce our fuel, repair, and replacement costs through smart planning, right? So if we have a piece of equipment that isn't as efficient as a newer one, or if you have something that's actually starting to get a little bit more broken down and we need to throw a lot more parts at it and fix the issues, maybe it's time we start thinking about getting rid of it, trading it in. I know it's a lot easier said than done. Again, we have this budget issue and all that, but if we can try to maintain and uh, fix what is broken, but if it's a little bit more than what you plan on spending, or if you look at it and say, okay, this machine is just not worth it, maybe it's time we actually start thinking about switching it out, getting something different, and go from there. Workforce productivity. So this is also going to minimize downtime so workers aren't waiting on the equipment, right? So if we have a breakdown, now we have to either try to fix it on the road or we have to call somebody in. Now we have to wait. We've got all this stuff, especially, and I know, it's that time of year. We've got blacktop sitting in the trucks, hot, ready to go, but we don't have a roller because it's broke down. Well, now what do we do? So those types of things, it just helps make sure that all of our workers are ready to go and they actually have a good productivity. It's just going to allow us to get the job done that much faster. Public accountability. Okay. So now we're going back to our budget, right? This is going to demonstrate responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources. So now when a taxpayer is driving down the road and he actually sees this piece of equipment, especially like a mower, right? Let's take a mower, for instance, and he starts to see that the tires are bald, or something is wrong with it, or they can see a trail coming from it because it's leaking oil, things like that. Now the taxpayers are going to start to wonder, right? If we try to keep up on this and we actually maintain what we've got or we replace it, now the taxpayers are going to say, okay, now I know where my money is going, and we might actually start to eliminate some of our questionable stuff that the taxpayers always come up with. Okay. Safety and compliance. So at Alfred State, our biggest thing is safety, right? So when I started here, we had a lot of equipment that was old, outdated, wasn't properly working. So we have phased all of that out. We've actually been able to get new. Now, granted, budgets are a little bit different, but I still have a limitation that I cannot exceed. So I try to replace one piece of equipment a year if I can. Um, but this right here ensures that all of our students, just like you, all of your employees would be safe on all of the equipment. And it also is going to make sure that all of the environment is all safe. You know, again, we have taxpayers running around, we've got, you know, different departments running around that are looking, checking, and that's their job. So we want to make sure that everything is all good all the way across and we don't have any issues. We do our inspections, we do all of that kind of stuff to make sure and maintain a safe workplace for everyone. Okay. And our last one is our data driven decisions. So we monitor everything that we have here. We monitor our hours of use. We monitor our fuel. We do all of that kind of stuff. We also log, document all of our maintenance on all of our equipment, right? So all of this is just going to do is provide you insight for better budgeting, maintenance, and acquisition. So now we know that, okay, we've owned this piece of equipment for this long. It's starting to cost a little bit of money. What do we need to change? How do we need to fix this to where we don't have that? Well, that might mean that we need to get rid of this one and acquire something new, you know, or hey, tires are a little bit worn. Okay, well, let's do this, you know, we'll put new tires on it. So now we actually get a longer life out of whatever we're working with. Okay. Jody.
I'm here. So the next poll question is, what is the size of your fleet? All right. Answers are coming in. A couple people are saying not sure, too small and just right, but we have no one on too large. Give it a few more minutes, but I'd say it's pretty even between the just right, too small, and not sure.
Perfect.
All right. Adam, back to you.
Excellent. Jody, I just wanted to touch base. Everybody can see the PowerPoint, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just double checking. My internet's still getting a little messed up here. Okay. So we're going to talk about what the right size of your fleet would be, right? So basic things we want to try to avoid would be our overcapacity, our undercapacity. We want to optimize the availability of our equipment. And then we also have our goals, what we're actually looking for. Okay. So to avoid overcapacity, that would simply just mean we want to try to make sure that we don't have too many vehicles, right? When you have too many vehicles, we start creating some unnecessary costs. Uh, I know there's a lot of you out there that have insurance that we have to pay for. Now we've got to try to store the equipment, make sure that it's undercover to try to keep it nice to where when and if we do need to trade it in, we get a decent trade-in value for it. And that goes along with our depreciation, right? If we leave it outside, it starts to get to where we're going to have to start throwing more money into it to maintain it and keep it up. So we want to try to avoid the overcapacity. And if you start doing that, you're going to see a significant change in your overall cost throughout the year because now we don't have to try to maintain this huge fleet. Okay. But with that, we also need to make sure we avoid our undercapacity, right? So if we have too few vehicles, right? We don't have a lot of vehicles. This is going to actually create an issue as far as our work delays. Okay. So now, oh, geez, you know, we've got to get this many people out to the job. Well, we only have this. So we've got to make multiple trips back to get the people out. Or, you know, hey, we need this, but we've got another job going on at the same time that needs it also. Right. So now we're going to actually start talking about our rental costs because we're going to have to possibly rent something. to actually make up the difference between one job versus another. Okay. And then with that, we also have, say we need to rent an excavator. Well, we've got a dump truck and a trailer that has to deliver material to one job, then go back, get hooked up, then go get in the machine, come back. Now we're going to start overusing that vehicle, right? We're going to actually start racking up a lot of miles on that vehicle. We're going to be wearing out the parts faster, okay? So that is going to now increase our maintenance cost, right? And we don't want that. So we want to optimize our availability. So what we really would try to do is we try to balance the need for readiness with actual usage, right? So look at your jobs and look at what you possibly could be coming up with as far as jobs. Now this year, things have been different. A lot of things have changed. We have a weird weather pattern right now. So we've got some flooding, we've got, dry days, all that kind of stuff starts taking a toll on the equipment. We might need to use it more for different things. So we need to check that, but we need to make sure that we're ready for everything that we could possibly come up with. Now, granted, I know we're not going to be ready for a huge natural disaster, but we try, right? We try to be as close as possible, right? And that is what we actually have as far as for our goal. We try to maintain just enough equipment or have just enough equipment to handle peak demands efficiently. Okay. For us at Alfred State, our demands are students, right? If we have an increase in students, we need to make sure that we have more equipment for them to operate. And for you guys, it would be, okay, so we know it's going to be a warmer season, or we know it's going to be a wet season. Let's try to make sure we've got enough to start maintaining our ditches, and possibly be prepared for flooding, things like that. Okay, so we need to start setting our goals. And I would say you start looking at those goals about uh, February, March, making sure that you have everything all set for the summertime. And then by August, you should be really starting to think about if you have everything set for, and I hate to say it, the winter months. Okay, we need to make sure we cover those as well. So when we start analyzing our equipment needs, right, we want to review all of our equipment. We want to review the historical usage. We want to review, look at our job specific demands, ask the operators and the foremen, and evaluate some emergency needs. Okay. So when we start doing this, we review the historical usage. So what have we used that piece of equipment for how long, right? For us, we have a grader. The students use that grader maybe a month in the fall and a month in the spring. Okay. So we don't need to update our grader because the grader that we have is perfectly fine and it's a fairly new grader, so we're good there. But other places, if you're going to use that grader for, you know, 1,500, 2,000 hours a year, you might want to think about replacing that grader before the depreciation really starts going downhill. Job specific demands. Do I actually need to have a bulldozer on site? Okay, well, maybe I do, but again, am I going to use that a lot? Right. So we need to kind of keep an eye on that as well. The people that are going to know the best are the operators and the foremen. They're the ones that are out there every day doing the work and making sure that everything is all covered and they have what they need, especially the foreman. So if the operator looks at it and says, well, geez, I can't quite get in there and I might need a skid steer for that or something like that. Now the foreman can let you know, hey, we could really use this, but it's only going to be for this amount of time, right? So now it gives us that opportunity to, be able to rent something, but it's not going to cost us a lot of money, and it gets the job done. And then our emergency needs, again, flooding. Are we going to need a larger excavator? Are we going to need a bulldozer? Or what are we actually going to need for this if this happened, right? Evaluate that. And this goes back with the historical usage too. I mean, you can start looking back at the history of your town or your area and see what has actually happened there before. And if you know what's actually happened there before, then you could say, okay, well, this is a possibility. So we really need to explore that possibility and see what's going on.
All right, I'm up. So the next poll is, if I can bring it up. Which of the following do you own? Select all that apply. We have loaders, graders, pavers, rollers, and some cranes. Some bucket trucks and dozers. So pretty much across the board, but rollers and loaders seem to be the majority. All right, I'm gonna end the poll. Back to
Okay,
you, Adam.
perfect. Got quite a few bucket trucks too. I like that.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. All right. So, identifying our underutilized units. Okay. Equipment sharing, renting for rare needs, fleet rotation plans. So these are all going to be strategies for our right sizing of our fleet. So let's identify the underutilized units. So again, I'll use the grader for instance. If you're a town that has really gone to mostly, if not all, oil and stone or blacktop roadways, which I know that's not a thing, but it possibly could be. Uh, if that's the case, do you really need the grader? Okay. Um, that's a piece of equipment that you might use, you might not. If you're trying to cut shoulders, can you cut shoulders with something else instead that might not cost you a lot to have as far as maintenance goes? Or is this going to give you a chance to be able to take that grader, trade it in, and get you something that could help, but it's a lot newer, less maintenance, things like that? Okay. Equipment sharing. And I know a lot of you town guys and all that do this all the time, and it's a fantastic way to do it. Get a couple of towns close by. Hey, if you have this, we're going to go ahead and get this, and then this town's going to get that, and let's share it all together, right? Let's rotate it. I know every day it happens with trucks, graders, bucket trucks, all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic. So now you're actually sharing. Not one person has to have, or not one town has to have all of this equipment and have to maintain it. Now it's spread out. Everybody can actually try to help out and replace things, or geez, well, we blew a line, we were over in this town for the hydraulics. Okay, well then maybe you guys put it on, or things like that. But the equipment sharing is a fantastic tactic to make sure and keep your budget down low to where you can actually possibly get something else that you actually might need, right? Renting for rare needs. Now, I've seen it multiple times. We've even done it here. When you only have a certain job to do, there really isn't a need for the purchase of that. So why don't we just rent it, right? In our case here, especially with our maintenance program that we have, as far as for campus wide, we don't really have a bucket truck. So, okay, we can rent one, or we can rent a regular lift for a week or 2 weeks. But again, going back to the equipment sharing, now if we rent say just a regular man lift, basket lift, to trim trees or something like that. Now check with another town. See if they could possibly use it too. So maybe you guys could share that rent and try to keep it. Maybe share some services, send a couple of guys over, have a couple of their guys come over to you, things like that. And we don't have to maintain it. We don't have to worry about it. Here we rent a lot. And for us, we like it because it keeps our maintenance costs down. We've got enough equipment as it is that we own to maintain. So when it comes time to actually having to maintain all the extra, that's just a cost that we don't have. Now, granted, you have a rental cost, absolutely, but you don't have all the maintenance that goes along with that. And for you, you're only renting it for, okay, say a week, 2 weeks, maybe. If you own it, how much is it actually going to cost you? And are you going to utilize it? Having to store it, and what's going to happen to that piece of equipment while it's sitting there in storage? We all know mice can get into things, and when you go to fire this thing up, now it doesn't work. Now you've got more money into it. So if it's a rare thing that you're really not going to use a lot of, maybe start looking at possibly just renting, and it might reduce your budget cost a lot. Fleet rotation plans. And I know you guys are big advocates for fleet rotation as far as trucks goes. That's fantastic. You got to kind of know when your limitations are for your vehicles, for any of the equipment. When it starts to really cost you, and you're looking at it going, well, geez, it only cost us, $10,000 last year, but now it's costing us about 20 or 30. Maybe we need to start thinking about rotating some stuff out, right? Um, Look at your deals. When I did it, I usually handle all of the actual equipment purchasing here. So when I do it, I look at it, and I have manufacturers come in, they look at things. When would be the best time to trade and get the most money out of it, or whatever the case may be? So start looking at that and try to get some sort of a plan in place to where you know what your actual rotation is going to be and when you can actually figure out how to get rid of it, things like that. Okay. Okay, so tracking use and aging. So we're going to start by setting some utilization benchmarks, right? Uh, and I know I keep going back to this, but our grader is the perfect example for this. So our utilization benchmark for that grader is maybe 400 hours a year, right? That's all we're going to use it for. Now, you guys are obviously different, but when you look at your jobs that you have going on, start actually looking at that and saying, okay, do we actually need this thing? What are we going to actually use it for this year? These are our jobs. This is what we're going to need. What is our benchmark? What are the lowest amount of hours that we're actually going to use this thing? Now you've set your benchmark. So if you've exceeded that, that's great. Now you know that you've actually utilized it, and maybe it's a piece that you really hold on to for a longer period of time. But for right now, let's make sure that we're trying to utilize as much as possible, and follow that with just a simple benchmark to set a certain goal. If we use it more than that, great. Okay. Uh, know your equipment life cycles. I mean, this could be as simple as just calling the manufacturer and saying, hey, how many years should I be able to get out of this? Or start looking into other places, even other towns, and say, hey, you've got something similar to ours. How many hours do you have on yours compared to ours? So we kind of know, okay, well, we can get through for a couple more years with it, and then we'll get rid of it. Or, geez, we're on borrowed time as it is. Let's start thinking about moving on. Use GPS and telematics. Okay. GPS is great. It will let you know absolutely where, whenever it is. Telematics will give you all sorts of information on the actual machine, and we'll get into more of that here in a little bit. And then our replacement triggers. What are our replacement triggers? That's going to be your, hey, we've had a 15 or 20% increase in maintenance cost on this piece of equipment. Maybe we should start thinking about this, right? Those are going to be your triggers. Or, geez, something's not right here. We've got something that's leaking, and we've had it looked at, and it seems like it's going to be a little bit more costly. Let's start thinking about switching it out. Okay. So I added these pictures because this is our equipment that we have at Alfred State. Okay. And the reason I added these was for a couple of different things. So defining equipment requirements. Okay. So collaborate across departments. For us, we do this all the time. Our regular maintenance program that is here, the maintenance facility that is here on both our Wellsville campus and our Alfred campus, utilize our equipment and our students. So we try to have meetings with them every year to discuss what projects they would like to do, or if there are any projects that they need to do. It could be as simple as, I've had maintenance guys come up to us and say, hey, you guys are going to be gone for 2 months for the summer. Is there a way that I could just park a mini down here in case I need it? Absolutely. But this allows us to know what equipment we're going to actually need. Okay. For you guys, it could be as simple as, a town collaborating with a village, or towns and counties, things like that. So let's discuss it. Let's figure out what equipment could be used all across the departments. And then we can start that share program. Okay. Maybe you won't have to actually have all of it. Match to the application, right? So, okay, well, we do a lot of creek remediation, things like that. Obviously, a wheeled excavator is not going to work for us, but let's possibly put in a track excavator. Let's get that instead. Oh, okay, but that's also going to change a couple of things. Do we have a trailer, truck, all that kind of stuff? Just be prepared for all of that. But we need to actually match to the application, because when we're out there trying to do something with the wrong piece of equipment, we all have been there, and we all know that the frustrations get really, really high when you don't have that right piece there that you need. Local conditions matter. Okay. Let's make sure what we're going to be doing, where we're going to be doing it, and if we can actually put that machine in there. Okay. And this goes along with avoid the over-specking. Okay. So now if I have a creek remediation job, but it's a smaller creek, should I get the largest excavator that is made to put in there? It doesn't fit. Right. So let's try to avoid doing that. Let's make sure that we get the right machine for the right job. Jody.
All right, next poll. Have you standardized your truck fleet? And majority are yes, some are thinking about it, and then we do have some no. All right.
Okay. All right. 72% said yes. Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about this. Benefits of fleet standardization. So we order a truck. We have, for the sake of argument, let's say we have a Peterbilt, we have a Kenworth, and we have a Western Star. All three of those trucks are going to be different, right? If we order the same truck and have a fleet of the same thing, this is going to simplify our maintenance tenfold, right? We have the same filters, we have the same oil, we have the same wiper blades, we have the same tire set, we have everything is the same. So now we can literally just go right in, grab the parts we need, and it can go on any piece of any truck that we have. That simplifies the maintenance, and it simplifies your cost. Okay. Some manufacturers are making their own stuff, and you can only get it through one manufacturer, right? Whereas if you go with a different brand, you can go to Napa, CarQuest, wherever, and just get a basic part and not have to worry about it. So this might actually help you as far as your cost of the maintenance. Now, besides that, we've got a snowstorm and one truck is down, but somebody else can come in and do something else and take a different truck, things like that. Now we actually are talking about operator familiarity with it. Try to make sure that all of your trucks are close to the same. Now I get it. I understand that each driver wants this, they want that, but as long as they have the same basic operational functions, every driver can get into every truck if need be and actually operate that vehicle and never have any issues with it, right? And we can actually get the best utilization out of that vehicle. Along with that is streamlined procurement. We all know that right now things are tough trying to get the trucks, right? We can get the truck, but we can't get the plow, or vice versa, all that kind of stuff. So if we have the same vehicle, they already have the specs. It actually might start making the process a little bit faster if we have the same system or same setup throughout all of our fleet, right? So now you say, you call them up and say, okay, I need to order another one identical to this one, boom. Instead of having to go and, pick out the colors and do this, do that, and everything's the same and we don't have to worry about it, okay? And then training efficiency. So now we can train, but we only have to train on one vehicle because they're all the same, right? We don't actually have to worry about everything else. So, blind spots, all that kind of stuff, everything is the same, right? Now, again, possibilities could be different as far as, light switches, things like that. But for the most part, you know where everything is and everything is familiar to that operator, so they've been trained on one vehicle. They don't have to be trained on all of them. Okay. With that, we want to maximize our equipment flexibility. So multi-function equipment. And when I say multi-function, this could be just a piece of equipment that we can do different things with, like a backhoe, right? A backhoe has an excavator on the back and a bucket on the front. So now we have two different things that can be done with that one machine, right? That's our fight here is we try to train backhoes and excavators, and they all want to sit in the excavator, but a backhoe has two different pieces of equipment on it versus one. So we kind of like that. It's more universal, right? The skid steer, same thing. We can throw a bunch of different attachments on one piece of equipment. So now when we look at our use of attachments, right? We can put buckets, we can put grapple buckets, we can put mill heads, we can put sweepers on it. We can do all that kind of stuff. So let's make sure that our equipment is ready for that. Again, with our loaders and our backhoes, let's make sure that we've got hydraulics set up on the front so that way we can put a broom on it. So it's not just a loader, right? Or can we make sure it's got a quick attach coupler so we can actually put forks on it? Things like that will actually help down the road to make sure that you run a little bit smoother because you have the ability to adapt to different scenarios, right? Year-round utility, okay? Let's make sure that we actually have this thing that can be actually used year round. Now, again, rollers, no, we can't really do that. But they're a necessary evil for, blacktop, for rolling dirt roads, things like that. So we naturally have to have that. But if you can find a piece that you're able to operate all year round, you're going to get a lot more use out of it for the money that you've spent. And then cost efficiency, okay? Now, we start talking about cost efficiency. Certain places like certain brands. But when we look at the actual cost of each piece of equipment, can we get the same basic loader, for instance, if we went with this brand versus this brand? It's a little cheaper, but we still get a brand new loader and it still does everything that this one does. It just doesn't say that name on the side, or it doesn't have this option that we really don't need, or something like that. So let's look at our cost efficiency and try to get the most we can for what we actually have to spend. Again, we're limited in our cost. Okay. And then we also need to start looking at evaluating our equipment investments. Okay. So total cost of operation or of ownership, right? So that's not just the actual cost of the, let's say, truck, right? We need to actually start looking beyond the purchase price. So when we say beyond the purchase price, we need to actually look at what it's going to cost us to own that vehicle for a set number of years, right? So we've got the initial cost. Then we've got to add on our maintenance cost, fuel cost, insurance cost. All of that adds up to the total cost of ownership. So when we go to do this, we say, okay, well, the truck costs this much. It's going to cost this much. Well, if we don't have this on it, it drops it down a little bit, right? Parts and service availability. Let's find something that we can actually get parts for easily, right? Now, granted, I know that a lot of you like to go through the manufacturer, which is fine, perfectly fine. But let's make sure that that manufacturer has a readily amount of parts. So that way, if something does happen, you can quick race up there, grab the part, bring it right back, and you won't have that much downtime, right? Whereas, oh, geez, well, that's a different thing. We're going to have to special order that, or things like that. They start to add up. Now we've got downtime and we can't even use it, right? And then expected service life, right? What are you actually trying to get out of this truck, for instance? Let's say to ourselves, okay, well, I want to own this truck and I want to plow snow with this truck. So let's go with, we're going to have this truck for 6 years, 8 years, whatever the case may be. You need to start looking at that and start evaluating what you actually want as far as the investment goes. Okay. Jody.
Okay, next poll. How long to keep a new dump truck? Results are coming in at 10 to 15 years, 16 to 20 years. Some are saying less than 10, and a couple people are saying not sure, but the majority are saying 10 to 15 years.
Okay. And that's pretty standard. That really is pretty standard across the board. I've spoken with a lot of different towns, counties, and states, and they're pretty much all the same, saying, it's a big investment, which especially now, I mean, you're not getting a truck for less than $230,000 anymore. That's just not there. So let's try to hold on to this thing as long as possible, which I get. Uh, but with that, we've got to actually talk about the tracking of this vehicle. Okay. So let's start talking about prevention of equipment loss or misplacement. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, it happens even to us. When we get out on the road and we actually start having all these different jobs uh, that we're doing in the area or the things like that, you start to think to yourself, geez, where was that? Or where did that go? Right. There are different things that you can actually have now, especially in the manufacturers, that will allow you to figure out where that is. All right. But in the meantime, we need to start preventing that equipment loss. We need to have those apps on our phones and things like that to make sure we know where the thing is, so that way it's easily ready to go get it, pick it up, bring it back, right? With that, we're going to monitor our utilization. We have a board in our office, and we log how many hours each piece of equipment is being used. We do this because we are required by the state to actually show how many hours for operation we have. But we also do it to make sure that we understand, this helps us track our maintenance when the machine needs to be serviced. It also keeps us on track as far as how long we want the machine in service. Okay. Okay. Well, we only want to have 2,000 hours on it or 3,000 hours on it. Well, we're getting close. Okay. That's one that we need to start thinking about. Right. So with that, we start with our support budgeting and planning, right? We want to make sure that we have all of our budgeting and our planning set and ready to go. And we know that we're setting aside certain amount of money to have for our equipment, that we're ready. We've got it all planned out. We know what we're looking for. We've gotten our quotes. We know what we need, right? And make sure that we comply with our audits and our regulations. With us, we have our self-auditing and we have state auditing. For us, we always make sure that we have 3 quotes. We make sure we have 3 quotes because that helps us determine the best price that we're going to get. Okay. So you could do that. Key inventory data points, right? Basic details, simple, right? We have ours on an Excel spreadsheet and we have it on our whiteboard. Basic details such as year, make, model, serial number, so we know what the vehicle is, what the equipment is. Usage metrics, engine hours, mileage, fuel consumption, that's a key. Local and location and assignment, where it is and who has the unit. For us, we have it separated throughout all of our classes, but for you guys, it's okay, it's up here on this road, and what are we doing with it? Why is it up there, right? Condition and status. It's operational. It's been having no issues. It's still in service. Okay. Or, hey, guess what? It needs something. So we're going to take it out of service for right now. And we're letting everybody know. Okay. And then our maintenance records, last service date. So that way that operator knows that, hey, okay, we've got this many hours on it and it was just serviced at this time. So we're getting close, or, things like that. Or we're all set. We don't have to worry about it. We don't need to bring it right back to the shop right away. We can do this job over here for next. Kind of eliminates having to travel back and forth and move the machine all sorts of times. Okay. Jody.
Okay, next poll question. Do you have a full equipment inventory? We are coming back. Yes, paper inventory. Yes, fleet software and partial inventory only, but I have none for the no.
A beautiful thing to see. That is fantastic. I love the fleet software. That is great. That is great. That's a new thing, and everybody is jumping on board with it, and it is very handy to have. Um, Paper is perfectly fine. We have all of that stuff ourselves. But our fleet software, as we get the newer machines in, we have actually started getting all of the manufacturers. They're downloading all of our stuff, even on our instructors. All five of our instructors have the apps on our phones, so we know it shows everything on it. It's fantastic. We love it. But we still do the paper inventory. We always do. We always will. We like to have that backup. So that is fantastic to see the amount of equipment inventory that is being utilized in the area. That is great. So with that, we have some solutions that we can do, right? Fleet management software, Fleetio, AssetWorks, RTA Fleet. Also, we have those that have the manufacturer apps along with it. I know Case does it. I know Cat does it. I know John Deere does it. So there are other places that you can just download the app. It tells you everything about that machine, and then you can actually upload it either into the cloud or onto your laptop at the shop, things like that. So it's fantastic. Digital inspection forms, right? Let's make sure that we actually are doing the inspections. Let's make sure as we're doing these inspections, we make sure that everything is on the up and up on the piece of equipment. So that way we don't have any surprises down the line, right? So that way we know that that piece of equipment doesn't need any maintenance, but if it does, now we have that fleet management software that we can just log right on. We're all done, right? We already covered the GPS and telematics systems, manual logs. It's less ideal, obviously, just because we have more of a paper thing. But like I said, we still do it because we want to make sure that we have both checks and balances, right? We have the online portion, and we also have that paper in case something happens. Hey, it's still there. I mean, we make the students do our pre-ops on a piece of paper, on an actual data sheet, everything, and then it's handed in every day. We don't have to worry about it. Those manual logs are perfectly fine, right? They will do this exact same thing. It's just less ideal as far as it takes a little bit longer to look back through them. But either way, as long as you're doing it some sort of inventory, it just keeps your shop moving at a more smoother pace, right? So now you actually know what you've got, where it is, all those things. Okay, so now let's talk about some data. Okay, we want to talk about our inventory data that we're going to actually turn it into an action, right? So now we look at those data sheets, look at our telematics, we look at all that stuff, and we say, okay, geez, this doesn't have a lot of use. Now we know, right? We know how many hours are going on all that equipment. So now we can actually think maybe we should replace that with something else, right? Or redistribute the underused equipment. Hey, this thing hasn't been moved a lot or it hasn't been run a lot. So maybe, we can check with other areas. Do they need it? You guys can use it. You can borrow it. Things like that. Set replacement priorities, right? So this goes back to our goals. This goes back to our actual plan of trying to set everything in motion as far as this one's starting to get a little bit older. This one's not too bad. This one's great. Let's start rotating this stock out and getting some new stuff in. Okay. And then optimize our rentals. Even with those uh, online apps, things like that, when you go through rental agencies, you can actually log that stuff onto those apps and still track those as well, right? So now you say, okay, well, we rented an excavator for 2 months, but we only used it 3 days, right? Or, geez, it was raining a lot. So now we know we can cover ourselves, and we can actually look at it and say, okay, we really should only rent it. Maybe we should own it, things like that. Okay. Impact. Equipment impacts on crew efficiency. Minimizing the downtime. Okay. When we have the equipment and it's up and running, everything is all set, we're going to actually be running right normal speed. Everything is great. But when you have a roller or an excavator that breaks down, something like that, now we've got guys sitting. We don't want that, right? So let's try to minimize the amount of downtime for the crew. Or, hey, I got to go and get that. Okay, so what are we going to do for hour and a half that he's got to go and get this machine and bring it back? Things like that, right? Try to do a little bit of planning to make sure we don't have that. Make sure, again, that we have the right equipment and at the right time, right? We don't want to be tripping over it, but hey, we've got it, but we're not going to use it until next week. Well, okay, well, it's in the way now. Or, hey, we don't have this piece of equipment and we really need it. We've had times where you're sitting there trying to move a whole mountain and you've got a mini excavator where you need a big one, right? So it's things like that you want to try to actually really look at and make sure that you have all of the right equipment in at the right time. Avoid workarounds. Okay. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid the workarounds. We want to make sure that everything is all set. And well, hey, we can work around this to be able to get to this. No, let's not do that, because it's just going to slow us down, right? We don't want to slow down. And then backup units. Okay. Backup units to reduce delays. You can have multiples. We have multiples, but we also really don't have too many backup units. It's just we have to shuffle units around to different areas if one needs to be used. I know a lot of places it's going to be tough to do that. Your budget doesn't allow that to happen, right? But if you do have the ability to, try to have something like that for a backup. Or, hey, we've got one. Maybe we should rent one for an extra 2 days or 3 days, just so it's there in case we need it. If you rent one, now you might actually take both of them out there and do the job faster and easier, right? Things like that. We're going to try to reduce those delays. Matching equipment to a task. So this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to start reducing our manual labor, right? So now our actual crew doesn't have to work as hard because they are all set. They have everything they need, right? This is going to also increase our daily output. It's going to make it to where we can actually run faster and move more. And with that, it makes the actual workers happier, right? It's very simple. It just boosts the morale, right? They look at it and go, geez, well, we don't have to work as hard. No, not granted, I get it. They need to still work. But in this case, they actually kind of look at it like, hey, they're thinking about us. They're making sure that everything is good, and it's going to make them happier. This also improves the safety of the area. We're not doing things that we shouldn't do because, well, it's a little bit smaller, but I think it'll pick it up if we do this, this, and that. Let's make sure we have the right thing. We don't have to worry about it. And then our scope of work. I've been there. I've done this. Ditching with a backhoe. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It worked. I mean, we did it. But if you're in an area, do you ditch with the backhoe versus the great all versus an excavator? This gives you that broad horizon of let's make sure we know what piece of equipment we're using and should we be using it, right? Same with brush. We trying to cut it with chainsaws and guys on the ground, or are we just going to take a boom mower out there and try to cut it down that way, right? Skid steer with attachments for multiple jobs. This is another thing. Get those attachments in there. Make sure you have that variety to where you can do the more jobs with it and put less of a burden on the employees. Jody.
Okay, the next one is actually going to be put into the Q&A. The question is, what piece of equipment would you purchase to help productivity? So you can go right into the Q&A, start to write those answers in, and I will read those off.
And Adam, while they're doing that, we got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right.
I love the passion, so it's okay. We'll make it.
I'm used to 2 hours, so.
All right, Adam, they're coming in. We have skidster, backhoe, small track excavator that can be towed easily, pavers, a new bulldozer, a robot, 908 cat loader, couple
Okay.
excavators.
Very nice. Very nice. Perfect. That's good. Okay, so comfort equals performance, right? So when we look at our new equipment, we need to start making sure that it's actually going to be efficient for the operator. So this is also going to help us reduce the fatigue. We're going to have fewer breakdowns and errors. Okay, attract skilled operators, and then we actually are starting to look at our long-term health. So let's make sure that our equipment is ready to go for that operator, and it doesn't harm him in any way, and it reduces all of his fatigue, so he's more comfortable operating. Why preventive maintenance matters? It prevents our costly breakdowns. It's going to extend our equipment life. It's going to keep our crews safe, and it also improves our reliability, right? So all of that stuff comes into the budget itself is not being drained on one piece of equipment. So as long as we do our preventative maintenance, our budget actually might stick around for a while, okay? Routine checks and service intervals. We're talking about our operator walkarounds, our scheduled maintenance, checklists, which improve consistency, and then our log of all of our work, right? And here's a copy of one of our daily worksheets that we use, okay? It just gives them the ability to inspect it, and then we file it and make sure everything is all set with it. Jody.
Okay, do you have a dedicated mechanic? Answers are coming in. Majority are saying yes to the first one, which has multiple mechanics, and a couple are saying no.
Okay. Okay. Which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that you don't have one. It just means that it's a little bit less efficient, but you might have to take it somewhere to do something or get something fixed on it that way. There are advantages to this. In-house advantages would be you don't have to worry about anything. They can fix it. They take care of it on their own, and it's all done. You've got your outsourcing benefits, right? To where you can actually take it and you don't have to worry about it, and your guys can do something other than working on that piece of equipment. Or you can do the hybrid approach, which is okay, one or two of you stay back and work on this where the others are going out and doing this. So when we do this, we have to look at our staffing considerations, which a lot of places they look at it and say, hey, do you have any mechanical experience? Do you know how to do this, and this, right? Things like that, they go a long ways. And then if you can utilize that talent, utilize it. Consequences of poor maintenance. We've got our increased downtime, higher long-term costs. It's going to actually cost you more. It's going to take a lot longer to actually fix it. And our reduced resale value, right? So now we're not going to get anything more out of it. And then our biggest one is our safety risks. We all have to make sure that we follow the safety of our employees. Purchase price versus life cycle costs. So our purchase price plus our true cost. High initial cost, may save you over time, right? So if you pay a little bit more for something that you feel has got a little bit more quality to it, that might save you over time. Track that operating cost though per hour. Make sure you know what it's actually costing you to have that piece of equipment. Budget with long-term view, right? So we're going to actually set aside a budget knowing what we want, and we're going to get to that goal, and we're going to purchase that. Okay. Strategic equipment disposal. So monitor resale value, track the market trends, which we do that all the time. Hey, is this thing going to make us the most money if we get rid of it now versus later? Okay, let's do it now. Condition affects the price. Obviously, if it's not in very good shape, then we know that it's not going to get a lot of money. And then plan replacements in advance, which we always do. We try to plan for at least 1 or 2 new pieces a year. And we figure that out the year before on what we're looking for. Okay. Jody.
Okay, next question. Do you have a capital replacement fund? Ooh, immediately we have a whole bunch of yeses. Yes, but it's too small and not sure. Majority are saying yes, though.
Good. Very good. That's a good thing. If you're not sure, look into that. See if you actually have something out there. You might realize that you have the ability to possibly purchase something new or replace something. Okay, so you're going to want to definitely look into that. Replacement planning and forecasting. Use fleet replacement schedules. Right, set that schedule up, especially for trucks, things that are going to be really used all the time. You guys have all said, 10 to 15 years you want to replace that truck. So after year 10, we start looking at it, go, okay, we got 5 years. Is it going to last 5 years? Let's start setting things up. Okay. Set aside capital, set aside that money and get things ready to go. Even if you have to set aside a little bit each year, you know how much it's going to cost. Okay. Prioritize your high cost, high use units. Okay. Make sure you know that, hey, we use that loader every day. That's going to be the first thing that we get replaced instead of this, right? And then involve the finance department early. Make sure that you get the board on board with it and get them ready to go and prepare them for what's about to happen. Why do we keep maintenance records? Proof of compliance, right? This is going to support our budgeting. So now when we go to talk to the board, we can say, hey, look, we've done all we can do, and this is how much it's going to cost us. This is what we got, It improves the resale value. And people actually they love to see performance history. They love to see the actual records of what that machine has been done or has had done to it, so they know what they're purchasing. Essential maintenance data. Let's see, service dates and types, hours, mileage at time of service, okay? Technician notes, cost and parts used. Jot all that stuff down on your sheets and then file it or put it in the Excel spreadsheet, something like that. Recording methods, paper logs, okay, spreadsheets, digital systems, and then what we recommend is our fleet maintenance software. But again, paper logs are simple, but they are effective. Spreadsheets are the same. We do all of it, okay? And then our benefits. Purchasing new equipment and performing preventative maintenance. Newer equipment means less hours in repairs. Better equipment means more efficient use of labor and materials, less breakdowns. It could be just as simple as it's a more efficient machine and it's safer for the actual workers. Okay. Fleet reduction success. We've got a challenge. Budget constraints and aging fleet. The action would be we reviewed usage data, removed underutilized equipment, right, and centralized maintenance. So our result would be that we've downsized the fleet by 15%. So that means 15% of our fleet was never actually being used. So we saved $150,000 over 2 years in fuel, maintenance, and insurance. Improved uptime with fewer, better maintained machines, and now we have a data-driven decisions led by efficiency. Okay. Here's another one. Parks and Highway Departments both needed a utility truck occasionally, created a shared use schedule and central dispatch system. So they have one machine that is separate and split between both of them. They use it whenever they can. They schedule all the appointments. So we've got avoided purchase of a second vehicle. reduced the idle time, promoted cross-department collaboration, and then we also are sharing reduces fleet size and costs without affecting service. So that's always a plus. Planned replacement equals long-term savings. So policy, replace units every 8 to 10 years or after 6 to 10,000 hours, however you want to look at it, whether you do it by the years, the hours, or the miles. Midlife assessment, units are evaluated at year 5 for productivity and reliability. Benefits, avoid surprise failures and large repair bills. Budgeting becomes predictable. And then our tools could be a spreadsheet-based forecast updated annually. We got to make sure that's updated all the time. It takes an army, okay? Managing a fleet is not for everyone. This takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of people that are involved in all of this stuff, and you guys see them every day. We've got the bookkeepers, the clerk, the board, the town board is involved very closely, the attorney, highway superintendent, everybody is involved in this decision. So it has to be unanimous. We have to have, all of our meetings, okay? Everyone involved must work as a team to achieve that goal. You need to look at the overall aspect of it of saying, okay, well, this is going to be what we want as an end result. So keep that in mind. So our key takeaways, make sure that we have the right size, okay? Right sizing is critical. Buy smart, okay? Look at what you're getting, look at how much it's costing you, compare, right? Track everything. You guys are already doing it. You're doing a fantastic job with that. Keep up with the tracking. Maintain your proactivity on that. Make sure that you guys are being proactive on this and following what you need to do. Plan ahead, okay? Use data to help you with that plan. Jody.
All right, last poll question. Do you have a spare snowplow for snow and ice control operations? Yes, it is in good shape, is the majority. Yes, it's okay is coming in second. And no, but we have no one responding to have shared service agreement with a neighbor.
Okay. Well, and that's a possibility that you could actually look at down the line. Okay. Just in case, hey, this truck went down, so we can shift our pattern this way and have some coverage from somebody else if it's needed, things like that. But good. That's fantastic to hear that you guys have the extra and it's ready to go at a moment's notice. You can always use that for anything, other things as well too. So, self-assessment for your fleet. And I want you guys to look at this and I want you to think about this. Do we know how often each piece of equipment is actually used, right? If you're not doing this, are you making sure and paying attention to that? Are you tracking the maintenance and usage of your structured digitally way, in a digital way or a regular paper way, which you guys are doing great at that as well? Have we evaluated whether our fleet is too big or too small? Well, maybe now you'll actually think about that if you haven't already. And are we budgeting for replacement before machines actually break down? Don't wait until they break down. Get ready. Be prepared for all of this. And then open discussions. I put this in there because I want you guys to actually think about this. And then if you have any comments, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. What challenges do you face in managing your fleet? Okay. Have you had success with right sizing, sharing, or outsourcing? Also, what systems or software are you using to track your inventory and maintenance? And then last one, how can we improve labor productivity through better equipment planning? Okay. So again, if you have any comments towards that, we'd love to hear your comments. Go ahead and put them in the Q&A. I appreciate the time that you gave for me. It was a pleasure. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, please feel free to email me. David has put my email right on there. We'd be happy to talk and possibly even meet up if you have any other concerns. David, I'll let you take over.
Take over?
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks, Adam. Love the
Not a
passion, as
problem.
I said. And Again, if you have any questions, you can also send it to us. Our address is just clrp@cornell.edu. We'll answer any questions. And if you guys liked it, we'll probably see Adam again. We're working with them on some projects with micro-credentials and stuff like that. So watch this space, as they say. Thanks again, Adam. Everybody have yourself a
Absolutely.
great week. Stay cool this week. Stay hydrated.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I was out in the field this morning. That's why I still got my vest on.
Oof.
That's why I was running late, but that's what we do. So
Yep.
everybody have a great time, and we will see you next week for what's next week, Amanda? My brain's not remembering, or Jody.
Pavement with John Rondinero.
Pavements. Okay, sounds good. Okay, everybody, take care. Thanks,
Thank
Adam.
you.
Bye-bye.